National Registry for the Emergency Medical Technician. This is a parallel entity. It is not a government agency. It is a parallel entity that works with the federal government and state agencies um, in credentialing and certifying emergency medical services personnel. Um, and what they do is they basically try to ensure that we meet the federal government standards by NHTSA by training students and applicants in the EMS programs. Once they complete those the training there at the institutional level, they take a certification exam as well as a psychomotor test or skill testing to ensure that at the level of training they've received the minimum standards and they can pass um, these exams and assessments proficiently. You can see that this is their homepage. Let's look at EMT, the emergency medical technician. It's a shorter program, probably roughly about 180 hours, with a few hours of clinical experience. It does talk about the certification process. It talks about the two tests that will be administered, a cognitive or a written examination. This is usually done online, and then a psychomotor test. For this psychomotor test, this can be done um, at the training institution's level, usually done comprehensively at the end of the course to ensure that the student has the ability to perform the psychomotor test. You can take a look at each little site, excuse me, each tab, and they'll open up to tell you about the course. And this is about what the exam would be about, the amount of questions, and then about the psychomotor test. And these are your skills tests that they would administer. Some are timed, and most of them have critical failing criteria. So if you hit any one of those, you would end up failing that skills test or assessment. Go back to the certification process. It'll require you to apply to the National Registry. Let's go ahead and click onto that. So here you would apply. You would go ahead and create an account. And by creating an account, this would start the process of you having an account with the National Registry. Once you have an account and you complete your course, you would have to then, as a candidate, apply to take the cognitive or that written or online test. And then you would have to also, upon completion of the course, and you would have to complete the psychomotor or skills testing portion. We do have AEMT as a level that is licensed by our state. Uh, and we did have a type of course in the past. Currently, we are still building this course. So I'm going to bypass from EMT straight to paramedic level. The paramedic level is quite comprehensive. Again, this is a certification process in which the National Registry administers a online written cognitive exam, and then this skilled motor test has to be done with the National Registry representative and a state licensing person from the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. And so this test is usually administered on Oahu. It has to be set up through your program to be done. Overall, the initial training is required and mandated to adhere to the National Highway Safety Traffic Administration content. As we continue through and we finish those initial programs, we have to recertify, and recertification is done at this time because we adopted the National Registry's process for certification and licensure for the state of Hawaii. We can look at the continuing education, and this is what they call the NCCP, National Continued Competency Program, We follow the curriculum that's set there so that we can maintain our adequate competencies. So it captures the amount of didactic content that needs to be administered in these refresher courses and the skill sets that we need to capture. Again, we may increase that level of skill capture or didactic content, but we need to at least have the minimum content offered in order to recertify. These are the levels. So you have a total of 60 hours for a paramedic. The AEMT or Advanced Emergency Medical Technician has 50 hours. Emergency Medical Technician has 40 hours, and then your EMR level has 16. So this is a far discrepancy right here. You really only need the 2 8-hour days total, but some of this, almost half of this, can be done online. So again, all of these courses are required at different content here, the national level, state and local level, and then the individual yourself, the personnel, the provider themselves can choose to take other courses. The majority of this can be all online here. Total of 60 again for paramedic, 50 for the advanced EMT, and 40 for EMT, 16 for EMR. Just to recap, our National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians is a parallel entity. We take the online cognitive exams. We also take their psychomotor exams to ensure the competency of the individual passing a state approved program. So they're not a federal agency and they're not a state agency. They're a parallel entity that provide guidance to state and federal agencies. And state of Hawaii has adopted this program to allow us to be more aligned with other states. We do the initial course for EMT, um, but because our state requires additional skill sets, our state program is quite much longer than just the EMT program, but it's slightly shorter than what the AAT requirements are. And so we do adhere to the minimum standards, but the state of Hawaii increases that. At the paramedic level, we do have the same requirements to maintain and adhere to the national education standard, but then uh, we do have some components that are higher competencies. Again, nevertheless, upon initial completion of those programs, we take the psychomotor and psychomotor skills testing, and then our online cognitive exams. To maintain licensure in the state of Hawaii, the state of Hawaii has adopted the National Registry. So if you complete your level of hours of training for your EMT level as well as the paramedic level, when you submit your National Registry certificate with the relicensure process, that would suffice as meeting the requirements. I'm very happy that you took on this path into EMS training.